Good evening and welcome to Drinking Digital, the first and only weekly podcast here in the Philippines that talks exclusively about digital communications. Anything from Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, mobile advertising, and so on and so forth. This is your host, Ricky Baizas, and this is episode 10 of Drinking Digital. So I hope you guys are thirsty because we got an exciting show for you tonight. By the way, we are still broadcasting from battleaxenetwork.com, but we just have a unique setup tonight. This is temporary. We'll be moving to our new or more permanent digs in the next episode. Tonight we have a very special guest. This guy is actually a good friend of mine. I went to grade school and high school with him. Our guest tonight is Mr. Mike Palacios. Mike Palacios is the managing director of Havoc Digital, one of the first digital agencies here in the Philippines, and one of the vanguards or the pioneers of digital communications here in the Philippines. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here, Ricky. Thanks for having me.
Mike, tell us a little bit about Havoc Digital.
Okay, well,
give us a short history.
Yeah, well, I personally started in the internet space a lot longer than Havoc. I started Pinoy Exchange in 1999 with some of my friends.
That's right.
And that was a pretty tough time to actually be in digital.
Mike, how long ago was this?
This 1999. That's like 11 years ago. So. Okay. Quite some time ago.
So you started with Pinoy Exchange.
I started. Okay. That was my first step. I was the web designer / partner.
This is right after college, right?
Yep, pretty much.
We graduated in 98.
We graduated 98 yeah. Into the Asian financial crisis. So
that's right.
There was really nothing else to do, but get into this, and it kind of snowballed into. And one of the things that very quickly we noticed was that. We would go around selling advertising on our website, Pinoy Exchange, but we didn't have a lot of takers because the ad agencies really had no idea what we were selling, and the brands had no idea what we were selling.
Okay.
And it became very clear to us, that there's an opportunity here for us to share what we know about marketing online. And if we really believe that this thing's going to be big in a couple of years, we have to start early. Okay. So we laid out the groundwork. We had Havoc Digital up and running after a couple of years of just trying to sell these ads.
Okay.
And so,
but did you have any luck during those 2 years?
We had a couple. A couple of companies, showed their faith. Nestle was a very early advertiser.
Okay.
Nike was a very early advertiser. So there were a couple of agencies that were open already to internet ads.
Okay.
Who took a chance on websites like ours. So whether that was Pinoy Exchange at the time, whether it was Friendster back in the day. Those are the groups that were kind of the brands that kind of like took a chance on internet advertising, but still very few and far between. We actually entered the advertising, the consultancy side of the business quite by accident. We were selling ads.
Okay.
And
when you say ads, it's the banner ads.
Yeah, banner ads, plugs on our website for companies, and a couple of groups said, you know what, we like your website, but we also want you. Can you also hook us up with these other sites?
And what were these sites? Who were your contemporaries back then?
Up to now, websites back then and up to now were like Inquire.net.
Okay.
They wanted to buy advertising on Multiply. They wanted to buy advertising on Friendster. So we said, you know what? We can help you plan all of these campaigns
together with your ad buy on Pinoy Exchange
and a bunch of other sites, and we'll put them all together for you.
Okay.
And we'll build a promo around it.
Okay.
So it started just being these one-off things.
And that's when it hit you. There's a business
and then you know
here.
what? We started realizing after a while, we're starting to do what is traditionally an advertising agency task.
Yes.
Which is helping clients achieve their business objectives
online.
Right.
Okay.
And primarily marketing through the digital medium, which is the web, which is social media now, which is back in the day called online communities.
That's right.
And so we started out with one client, and then it just kind of snowballed from there.
Okay.
Currently our biggest client is Smart Communications.
That's right.
It keeps us very, very busy. They're a very active advertiser online. Always have product launches like every other week, pretty much. There's something going out the door for those guys, and they're very committed to kind of like increasing their online advertising spend. We've seen it year after year. It's significantly increased. So that means it really helps them achieve their business objectives. Selling phone plans, selling postpaid, rolling out new handsets. Just this morning, they launched the iPhone 4S.
Oh, okay.
So,
right during the Ascal's LA Galaxy game.
Yeah.
That was the rumor, right?
Well, we'll see what's going to happen with that. But they basically put out a reservation site this morning.
Okay.
And coursed all of the information through Twitter.
Okay.
So some partly through their endorsers, partly through their employees, and it just snowballed. I mean, the message just snowballed, and by noontime, it was trending on Twitter already.
Wow.
The smart iPhone 4S was trending on Twitter, and that was actually quite exciting to see. Something is, you'd think that a mobile phone would never trend on Twitter, but I guess the iPhone has just such huge equity that it did.
Mike, talking about trending on Twitter and what's the landscape now in the internet or the digital space compared to how it was back in '99? What are the changes that you see?
Huge difference. I mean, we used to joke in 1999, you just wait next year, this is really going to be huge. It took 10 years for it to become huge.
But back then...
but back then, there were like just 500,000 internet users.
Okay.
Primarily on dial-up.
Okay.
Today, 1 in 3 Filipinos are online.
Yes. You had close to 30 million on Facebook.
Yeah, close to 30 million on Facebook. A couple of interesting stats. If you talk about AB Filipinos, it's almost 90%.
Okay.
In fact, it's exceeded 90%. If you talk about young AB Filipinos, a quarter of them are accessing the web. It's a given already that they're accessing the web
through their mobile phones.
They're accessing the web through their mobile phones, which is amazing. It's kind of very exciting stats, and that means that digital marketing is now a very legitimate medium for reaching consumers. And it doesn't matter whether that product is something that only appeals to AB or it's soap or breakfast cereal. It's across the board. I mean, it's something that cuts across. We're seeing brands that are launching, kind of household products online.
That's right.
Seeing.
I just saw a Facebook ad for spaghetti noodles or something.
We're seeing detergent advertising on Yahoo. Right. So I mean, it really cuts across already. Pretty much almost every age range, every demographic is already affected by the web.
Okay.
So what does that mean for kind of like advertisers? There's this whole notion of what they call the digital confidence gap. There's where all the research tells us that they're online, that our target market is online. All the consumer insighting tells us that our target market is online. Maybe 60-70% of them are online, and yet we only put 3% of our budget in digital. That's something that many digital agencies are trying to change. Okay. It's a notion that they're trying to break. Television continues to still be a very no-brainer approach to marketing. Sales are down. Let's come up with a better ad.
No, but you have to admit, it's much better now than maybe a few years back.
Absolutely.
Right? Before really was you talk until you were blue and until your eyes were blue, and they still wouldn't buy. Now it's an easier sale, right? It's
Absolutely.
An easier,
I mean, I remember back in the day, when we were in the early days of selling Pinoy Exchange, some brand managers would say, "Fax me your online media plan." We couldn't even email to them. So how are we going to sell internet advertising?
How are you going to espouse this whole thing? If they're not even online.
But today we're seeing that it's also changing the times, right? I mean, the decision makers have grown up with digital. I mean,
yes. They were born with the cell phone, some maybe with the internet.
Yeah. I mean, these kids who are in management trainee programs today probably never even heard of dial-up.
That's right.
Didn't even hear of a dial-up tone. They're straight to broadband.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing to hear. We're also seeing a lot of case studies that are coming down the pipeline from around the world. Mm-hmm. So a lot of best practices, whether that's through awards, award-winning activities, whether that's through effectiveness activities or multinational agencies who are sharing their case studies, or global publishers like Yahoo and Facebook that are sharing, what has gone right in many other markets and is now being imbibed here. All of those things are kind of like opening marketers' minds to digital. For many, for a couple of marketers though, there's a big question mark for them, which is, I know I need to be on digital. I just don't know how.
Okay.
My current ad agency, who is very, very good probably at maybe doing radio, print, and television, events, PR, they're not quite sure what to do in digital. How do we roll out promotion?
Because there's just so many vectors that you can tap on digital. Digital is like a whole new channel wherein you have TV media, TV, print, radio, and out of home and everything. Yeah. Within digital, because digital is not just one thing, right? Within digital, there's display ads, there's search, there's blogging, there's viral videos, and even mobile.
All the traditional aspects of what they call traditional media kind of have their versions in the digital space.
Yes.
Plus a couple of other things. That's right. Social media, like blogging. Where do we? So how do they navigate these tons and tons of options?
Right. Yeah, I think that's where the barrier lays, because when you talk about TV, all you have to worry about is it a 15-seconder or a 30-seconder?
And how many types?
Yes, exactly. So, but I do think coming from the advertiser side, I think it really will not take off the way we want it unless we really narrow it down to maybe a couple of executions that becomes the standard. Yeah. Of course, you can't stop the digital the train, so to speak, or the juggernaut, because there's always something new every week. Yeah. But I think that's where something like Facebook and Twitter come in, because they do sort of define what digital is now. So it's easier for advertisers to digest it. Okay, I just need to be in Facebook, or I just need to be in Twitter, for example.
It certainly helps to move it into bite-sized chunks. There's also a certain semblance of wisdom in just making sure that ads get out the door to the online population. One thing that I've always seen is when ads don't roll out, campaigns tend to stumble. So it's always important that these things, that the typical things, that deadlines are met, and you kind of launch in sync. But then, this whole thing is also even redefined the kind of like, what is an ad agency? I had no idea I'd kind of be doing that task in my own company. Kind of like this. So digital doesn't just impact the marketing of products and services, or the perception of products and services. It also impacts group product side. It impacts customer service.
Oh, that's right.
And there are so many companies out there, for instance, that get one part right. They do tons and tons of really fun promotions and marketing, but then when they're besieged by product inquiries on Twitter, there's a disconnect. Yeah, they can't handle that part, or they want to hide under the rug or something when things go down.
No, I think that's why there's that danger of calling it social media. Because there's that notion that, hey, it's media, so it's a one-way communication. They don't know that it is social media wherein they can actually reply or answer back. So
I teach.
I think we need to take out that media word out of there.
Well, I think it's really maybe interactive media in the same or conversational media. We've seen at no point in history have people ever had a voice, and that's why I go back to social media again. Conversational media or whatever it is it's brought down governments, it's redefined companies, it's transformed word of mouth. When you talk about, for example, like big ticket items, like purchases that are like $100 and up, the number one determinant of finally pulling the trigger on buying that product is word of mouth.
Yeah.
Family and friends tends to be
if your best friend bought it already, you'll be like, I'll do it also.
And typically that conversation tends to happen in like coffee shops and things like that.
Yeah.
But now that conversation happens on Twitter. It happens on Facebook.
That's right.
It even happens in email. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it also people ask questions that way too. But it happens online. And that's a very scary thing for marketers, that it's not TV that determines it, that it's not that a message can be morphed, that a carefully crafted marketing message may not necessarily reach the target audience in an intended manner, because suddenly they can disagree with it. The public can disagree with it, and whether that's a government, whether that's an electorate, whether that's a media audience or a target market, it doesn't matter. They have a voice, and that's a very scary thing. But that's something we try to usher our clients through, I guess. That notion.
But there really is no anticipating what the reaction will be. Once you drop something in there, there's no predicting what the outcome would be like. You can just
the only thing you can really predict is how you're going to respond to how it moves.
Exactly.
So it's like it's this weird dance. You kind of have to dance with your customer or dance with your consumer.
You can just have like an arsenal of reactions. If it goes this way, let's do this.
Yeah.
It's like if it doesn't, we can do this.
It's like a choose your own adventure book.
Yeah.
And that's why the role of we're not specifically a public relations agency, but the role of public relations suddenly becomes super important because you have a reactive public.
That's right.
And the reactions can vary, man. You have you can have snarky, smart ass responses all the way up to I agree with you. And we've handled like groups like political clients in the past, and that's always been we're shocked by the way messages are received, taken, and depending on the frame of mind of the person who receives them, are transformed and retransmitted.
Okay.
At the very heart of it, there's really not a lot of control on the message.
Okay.
And that's why I guess it's kind of important, and that's why companies just have to be a little bit more transparent, I think, in this day and age.
That's right.
If you can't really be something you're not, or tell the world that you're something you're not, because they'll call you on it.
Yeah.
They will say, you know what, you are not, you don't have the best broadband. You don't have a phone that doesn't crash. You don't have on-time flights. I mean, the public will call you on.
So you have to be careful on your claims, right?
You have to be careful on your claims, and you actually have to deliver. I mean, from a product or servicing perspective, and it can't be an incomplete story anymore.
Yeah.
I've seen many companies who want to engage in social media because they think they can reach like millions or 30 million people on Facebook, but then do not want to engage in social media from a customer service perspective.
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem. It creates this disconnect, and many companies are scared of it. And I don't blame them. Maybe they would rather operate in a controlled media environment. But the fact is, they just can't anymore.
Yeah, talking about control, I noticed with the internet now, or the social media landscape, there's always one piece of news that catches everybody's attention. It catches fire. Everybody talks about it. But it's really just only one. And then after a few days, it dies down, and then something else takes over. Like yesterday was this piece of news about this grade school teacher who required her students to like her daughter's photo in a Facebook campaign, right? That was like the hot news yesterday. And then you get everybody talking about that. It dies down, and then something takes over. So it's faster now. Yeah. Your comments on this? Because I notice it's never two things at the same time. It's always just one thing that everybody talks about. And then it dies a quick death. Yeah. The issue is resolved, or it just really dies down, and then something else takes over.
I think it's
getting faster and faster, though. Every day there's always
it's getting
something
faster
new.
and faster, and I think before you could measure it in days.
Yes, exactly.
One of my favorite movies is The Paper, and
The Paper with Michael Keaton.
With Michael Keaton and Robert
Glenn
Duvall.
Close. Yeah, I
and
love
the
that. I love
editor-in-chief,
that movie.
Robert Duvall, says, "We only have to get it right today.
Today, yes.
We can be wrong tomorrow, and we just publish something. We just publish what's right again tomorrow.
So it's almost like that, but that was limited to journalists, to those who were coming out with the news. Now it's for everybody. Everybody who's reading it, because they're part of it, because they're the ones who share it and talk about it. They feel like they're part of it, and then it really just does survive one day.
There's two things there. One is the speed with which the snowball rolls, and the speed with which the snowball just falls apart at the end, and people stop talking about it. So you can really literally live under a rock for a while and wait for this thing to blow over.
No, it's almost funny. Like, by the way, Mike and I are members of the IMAP, the Internet and Mobile Marketing Association of the Philippines, and it's funny how one member posted that news today. And I wanted to comment like, oh, that's old.
That's yesterday. That was yesterday's news. That's one. The second thing is the notion of why was it that exploded yesterday, and not
something else. Yeah, exactly.
Not something like that's the headline of the day itself. And that's the beauty. I don't know if that's the beauty or that's just the effect. That's the effect of like crowdsourced news, right? The fact that you can have a story that personally means something to people, but may not necessarily be of national interest, worth printing on page one of a broadsheet.
That's right.
And of course, probably not fact checked in the same way as a broadsheet might probably do. And yet, boom! It's trending on Twitter. It has a lot of Facebook. It's gathered tons and tons of Facebook comments. So the fact that individual users pick this thing out of a hat, out of a feed of tons and tons of articles, and said, no, this is the one that we're going to talk about today because it's personal. It
somehow resonates.
It resonates. It may offend your sensibilities. It may and so every day there's something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's fascinating as well that you notice there's always one piece of big news that somehow gets.
In the age of Twitter, the dream of many brands is to come in and become that piece of news.
Exactly. I think that's what people discuss. Advertisers will need to master somehow. Yeah, or
they're looking for
influence.
And you know what? And they're looking at this and they're measuring this. It used to be, I want to be a craze for a week, or or let's say a piece of music. I want to be number one for this period, right? But now it's like I just want to matter for an hour.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think
I just want like 10,000 people to talk about this for 1 hour. Yeah, and I've made my mark. I've made my impact.
No, I think what we need to get out of is that mindset that a campaign is 3 months. Or a month. In the internet, it really is a day or a few hours, and if you can do that, that's already a successful piece of communication online. I think that's the mindset that we need to get into, and you as well as an agency would need to sort of facilitate. At the same time, though, for that to happen, I think you just got to keep plugging away until you hit it somehow, right?
Yeah.
Because you never know what the public will pick up. Was it a few days ago or a few weeks ago when it was that story about the missing husband?
Yeah.
The Lola Aurelia and her missing husband.
And the reunion,
That was the big news like a few days ago, right?
Yep.
So it's just it's fascinating how what gets picked up and then what gets quickly forgotten as well.
Yeah.
So I think what brands who want to get into social media have to consider as well is it will die down as quickly as it catches fire. I think that's what they need to consider or think about.
Yeah. We do two things online, or we try to help brands, the brands that we handle, with two things. One is kind of like that to matter for that short span of time. That's one. And that works very well for like product launches or getting the attention.
No, like the Victoria's Secret video was also the big news yesterday.
It's the kicker.
Right?
It's the kicker that makes things happen.
Yeah,
that's the first part.
So the grade school teacher was the news. The Victoria's Secret was somehow like a lifestyle feature. Everybody was
one
talking
was the
about
sizzle,
it
one was the steak. You just figure which one.
Crazy.
The other thing that we try to help clients with is just figuring out how they can migrate their businesses online. Whether that is, if I put out 1 peso of advertising, I get 3 pesos back.
Okay.
Just trying to figure it out. And you know what? It takes time to figure that out.
Okay.
Many brands don't, when they go online, they may have this abstract promise of like, but no, it doesn't happen overnight. It's something that needs to be optimized.
Yeah.
So we help them. There's a reason why on Facebook you tend to see like the same ad over and over again for a while. It's because they're trying to tweak that message.
Okay.
Just little by little until it's perfect. And that you're always there and you're part of the mindset. Just your brand on this side of your peripheral vision once in a while.
Sorry, Mike. It's funny you mentioned like the ROI of social media. I just came from a conference and there was this one speaker who said there is no ROI, and he was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna tell you straight out now, all you advertisers, all you clients out there is no ROI," and that sort of made some sense for me because how he explained it was in one day your business could go down because of something wrong that you do on social media, but also at the same time it could skyrocket because of one thing that you do online. So it's really not that easy to calculate that ROI. It's almost like how a relationship between friends, you can't put a number on that, right? So what social media enables is forming that relationship with your consumers or your customers. So it's hard to put a figure on that. Because there is that opportunity to communicate with them directly. And for them, more importantly, for them to communicate with you directly. You can't put a number on that relationship, right? Say one wrong thing, and you could lose that customer forever. Say the right thing, and this customer is yours forever. So there is no ROI. You can't compute how much that customer will spend on your product moving forward just because you said thank you or you replied to them right away, right?
I
want to subscribe to that there is no ROI.
That's a very comforting notion. And certainly, when we get audited by our clients, of course, nice to say there is no ROI. But I guess part of it is always being there for your customer.
Yes.
Whether that is through actually replying and answering questions and things like that, or comments that are posted, and just or even just making sure that all of your customers know what it is that you're selling at this given time.
That's right. Because they have questions about the product.
When you lose touch, for example, in our case, the big question that people had over the last couple of weeks is Smart selling the iPhone, and the longer you're quiet about that, is another day that maybe a competitor might be able to solidify their equity there. But it's almost necessary for you to publish that information, get it out the door, send it out through your social networks that it's there, it's available, and that's almost kind of like a promise that you're making to your customers. That you're gonna that you're still with them, that you're present to them. If you're not present to them in digital, and the only place that they see you, you might not be present to them at all, especially for your younger market.
Okay.
So it's to a certain extent, maybe there is no ROI because it's how can you compute ROI for constancy or presence?
Exactly. I think we need to start preaching that. Instead of hemming and hawing about there is an ROI, you can calculate this against that.
It's a nice analogy.
It's the relationship, right? You cannot put a number on a relationship between friends or a relationship between relatives, like a mom and her son or something. Right?
That's not to say that you can ruthlessly evaluate it constantly and see, how intense is my friendship? In social, what are people saying about me? Things like that. All of those things we do help our clients with as well. What are people saying about us on Twitter? What are people saying about us on Facebook? Is it generally positive? Is it generally negative? And how do you respond in that respect? Do you want to respond to this, or is it somebody just trolling for a fight?
That's another thing that I got from that conference was, there's positive sentiment in Twitter, and then there's neutral, right? And then there's neutral, then there's negative. And then he said something like, there is no neutral. It's either it's positive or it's negative. Right? So I mean, sometimes a neutral comment really is positive, right? So I think it's also up to people like us to establish all these things or these standards or whatever, so that there are no gray areas in digital communications.
It's tough, and you know what? It varies from industry to industry. I mean, it's very difficult to create. It's more difficult to create some kind of personal resonance in some industries than others. There are some that are very,
that are perfect for it,
perfect. Right? Travel brands, airlines, lifestyle, stuff like that. Lifestyle. I mean, they're always going to have tons of resonance, but also they also have tons of complaints.
That's right.
Service companies. So that's always something to consider. It's been a very interesting ride, certainly. But one of the other things that I've seen is the amounts being moved to digital are significant. You have clients that are taking, it used to be take out one TV spot a day. That's all I need.
But it's becoming more substantial.
It's becoming much more substantial. Moving money from print, moving money from television, from traditional media, basically, and moving it into digital in an accelerating pace. Pala. So it's a good time to be there. I teach media entrepreneurship in LaSalle. I said it's a great time. I keep telling my students it's a great time to enter digital because the money's actually there. It's a growth industry, which is fantastic. I can't think, ourselves, our competitors in this space, we're all fighting for talent, which is a good thing. Great time to be there, and certainly, it's a wave that we want to ride for as long as possible.
Having been there since you can almost say since the beginning, Mike. How would you feel though when it really does finally become mainstream? Will it lose its appeal, or will the fascination wear off? Because everybody's doing it now, so it's not as cool as when we were underdogs and nobody would buy from us, and it was challenging because you were part of like a minority. But what happens when the budgets all of a sudden become like more than 50%?
I think I can live with that. Just kidding, but seriously. The battle cry of IMAP for this year, our association, was digital is mainstream. I don't think it's quite there. It's where we want to be. But I think there'll always be something to push the envelope. So there are kind of like, emerging pockets inside digital. There are no-brainer pockets already, no-brainer areas already where you have to be in. Like, for instance, you have to be on search, you have to be on display media, you have to be in social media, you have to be responding to customers, you have to have a Facebook page and possibly a Twitter presence as well. So those things are kind of like givens already. But then there's also emerging pockets. So kind of like pushing the envelope from a technology perspective. So mobile applications.
Apps would be that. Group buying this year. And
e-commerce, the decision to really move your business from a transactional perspective online. And not just a marketing perspective. That's a question mark.
So digital as a sales channel.
Yeah, as in, do we really, do we launch if we're a restaurant, do we really launch food delivery this year?
That's right.
Are we going to do that? Is it the time? So those I guess are kind of more the pockets of growth that I guess have not been fully explored yet.
Okay.
Even like the stuff that you're doing, like podcasting and particularly video podcasting. These are still like areas with tremendous growth.
Oh, definitely.
There,
yeah.
I mean when you talk to many media agencies, they're going, okay, we all know that we have to advertise on Facebook. We all know that we have to think about Google and Yahoo.
But they don't know yet
like
if they should have their own podcast.
Do we have to have our own podcast
or sponsor
do we
one?
Sponsor a podcast. Yeah. That's something that's
I
still
think
a bit
they should
of a
sponsor
question.
a podcast.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, if you want to be, if you want to be the sponsor of emerging content, of new content, I mean, those are the things you have to look at. You have to really push the envelope. You have to be building Android and iPhone apps.
Exactly.
So that's still you guys are where are still in the it potentially 2012 scenario of growth advertising.
Okay.
So which is great.
Talking about mainstream though, Mike, some marketers still have that hesitation because it seems the number has tapped out. It seems it has stopped at 30 million. I remember when Facebook went from, was it 13 million
to 26
26 million in
like
a few months, and it seems the growth has stopped. It seems it has tapped out, right? What do you think is needed to bring that up to maybe a 40, 50, even 60%?
Yeah.
Will it stop at 30 million?
There's two things, and you'd probably need to have a telco guest here more than me.
Yeah.
But for my personal view is, I think internet costs can still go down.
I'm sure it has nowhere to go but down.
Yeah. So if for example your entry level plans are in the 800 peso range, getting them down to like 450, 500 pesos, we're hitting the income barrier. So the significant chunk of our population that's DE who's having difficulty going online.
And they really just also tapped out.
Yeah, they're tapped out.
The money that
so
they can shell out.
They're making choices like, do I buy food today or do I go online?
Yeah.
So those are very tough decisions.
Of course.
So there's a couple of things that are happening. For them, it might not necessarily, their first experience of internet might not even be through your traditional, 8,000 peso desktop or 14,000 peso netbook. They may never own their own connections. It will primarily either be through an internet cafe or a mobile device.
It'll be that $349 plan with Smart, right?
It could be. Something very exciting is Smart is marketing a 6,000 peso phone.
The net
phone, which pretty much does everything you need from
Facebook
an entry level.
Yeah.
It does Facebook, it does Twitter. You can browse. You can put persistent apps in it. It has You can do location, for instance, on it as well, and it's a great.
6,000 is the handset.
6,000 is the handset. Now, what that is today is it's a 6,000 peso device today. A year from now, that's going to hit the secondary market at half the price.
Yeah.
And all of these iPhones and stuff like that are just going to be moving down into the secondhand market, and becoming much more accessible for people. So it's quite possible for them to their first point of contact will be mobile.
Yeah.
Our household helper, my son's Yaya, she accesses the web through her phone. She mooches off our residential Wi-Fi, and she accesses through her mobile phone.
Okay.
So, but she's on Facebook. She's not on Twitter, but she's on Facebook.
Wow. And
she interacts on Facebook. So that's very encouraging because she's squarely in the D market.
Using which handset though?
She's using an old hand-me-down Nokia handset.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's browser capable. It can run Opera.
Okay.
So it gets the job done. So that's kind of like the pockets of growth. One thing that marketers...
Will the next 10 million come from
mobile?
Those mobile plans?
I'm pretty sure.
Could be, right?
I'm pretty sure. I think the plans are starting to... it used to just be for the telcos. There was like a plan, $9.99, that's unlimited. And then there's the cost per use plan, which is like 10 pesos per 30 minutes or something like that. Now they're like in between plans. So they're like 250 pesos for this many megabytes of data. So you can actually juggle those around a little bit. So there's gonna be a lot of growth, I guess, in the from accessing for mobile. Now, what does that mean for like advertisers?
Yeah. Because you cannot advertise on Facebook mobile, right?
You can't advertise on Facebook mobile. But again, if we define digital marketing to a certain extent as being present to our public,
you don't need to place ads if it's a way to communicate to your
a lot of marketers make the mistake of looking to the West for best practices in digital, and certainly there are a lot of best practices to come from.
Of course,
kind of like what's on the bleeding edge, what's the cool AR, augmented reality, or location-based application, or
QR codes,
stuff like that. Very smartphone-centric, a very smartphone-centric point of view, admittedly. We try to look at lowest common denominator emerging market services. That means services that pretty much everyone can access.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for a marketer? Maybe the website that they need to roll out isn't necessarily like a crazy animated exploding multimedia experience. Maybe it also means that you have to come out with when a Nokia old school 5-year-old Nokia phone accesses your website, it has to be readable by the Nokia N70 of 2006 or something like that. It has to be the mobile revolution. Might be in this tiny screen. The 300 pixels tall or 240 pixels tall, and we have to come out with websites that are ready to be browsed at that level. We have to come out with promotions and things to do, for that market. It's not necessarily the most, if you're talking to a marketer, they'll probably just yawn and say that maybe that's not the best place to be. That's certainly not the most exciting place to be.
Okay.
But again, if it's a question of presence, you have to be there for them, and they might be accessing through that type of model.
Mike, one last discussion before we call it a night.
All right.
Will the agency model survive what's happening now in the internet, in social media? What's your take on the creative agency, the digital agency, or digital supplier? How will that progress in the next few years?
My personal point of view is good talent will always survive.
Okay.
So the talent part, for sure.
Yeah.
That brands, companies, marketers will always be willing to pay for good execution, good talent, good insight, good intelligence, etc. good product.
But where that talent will be housed
where is it yeah. So the big question mark right now is like what's being done in-house, what's being outsourced to agencies, what is being sent direct to suppliers. My personal view is that marketers still have a lot to juggle.
Okay.
They're primarily, a lot of them mix a product role. Some of them mix a customer service role. Some of them, so the notion of having an intermediary consultancy to help them out will always be there.
Okay.
Now, the traditional things where agencies make money, like media, like production fees and stuff like that, those might be redefined.
Okay.
So it might be how are you paid? For instance, in this day and age, is it are you retained? Are you commissioned? When advertisers buy or when advertisers course their placements through, are you commissioned? That might all change.
Okay.
I'm personally, I'm open to multiple models actually.
It doesn't have to be one model.
It doesn't have to be one model or the other. I mean, if a company came to me, with the possibility, hey, let's revenue share.
Okay.
This is, we want to grow by X%, and we will give you, X%.
Okay.
Back. But we'll pay for your advertising. That's certainly a possibility.
Okay.
Within the realm of possibility. In fact, if you look at the mobile space, many mobile content providers and app developers do precisely that. They operate on a revenue share basis. So that might be where it's all headed.
Okay. So the safe bet would be to have no set rules when it comes to these.
Yeah. I'm involved with the ad board committee for actually setting up some of these rules, and the only rule we've agreed to is that
no rules.
That you know what, at the end of the day, you sign a deal with you're an agency, you sign a deal with a brand,
okay,
with an advertiser. You're a supplier, you sign a deal with an agency,
okay,
and it's those terms which bind you.
Okay.
So let the market.
Meantime, that's what
we don't want to say. No, you have to be retained.
Okay.
No, you have to be.
And that's how it's going to be moving forward.
It's not going to be like that. It's going to be
for the duration of that agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Entrepreneurs will just work together and come to a deal. Yeah. So hopefully that's how it works. So it's an interesting time for agencies. They definitely have to have, in this day and age, they definitely have to have more than the token digital guy.
Okay. No, but I think the question is, can a creative agency become a digital agency, or can a creative become a digital practitioner? Is that possible? What do you think? Have you seen it happen?
There are a lot of very good hybrids, but there are also a lot of good specialists.
Okay.
So the people we work with internally are really good at digital. But if you asked us to make a TV ad, I don't know what we'd come up with. I mean, probably be terrible. But ask us to design an online promotion, and it'll be rock solid. So in that respect, we're specialists. Now, if you're a traditional agency, the thing that you need is a digital reality check. So a lot of times you'll propose stuff from a user perspective. So I think I'm going to. It's hard to just recommend stuff to clients because you yourself are a Facebook user.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what happens behind the scenes. You don't know what happens when the curtains are drawn. You don't know the if-then logic of programming, for instance, to validate a recommendation. Okay. So, and that's the value add that we have. Okay. So the big question is, can a old dog learn new tricks, or the other way around, or is it is it easier? I don't have the answer to that.
I don't think.
It's tough. It's tough. But I think that one of the things is good consumer insighting will always shine through. So a lot of old hat products.
Of course.
Are very, very, very good at that. And so if you combine that with, good reality checking up front and a good understanding of the tools that are available in this day and age and how to operate them.
Okay.
I think you can have a winning combination.
Okay. So Mike, for our parting words, your fearless forecast on the future of digital communications in the Philippines. What is going to happen in the next few months or in the next few years?
Tons and tons of money are going to move towards of advertising. AdX is going to move towards digital.
Okay.
I think we're going to see a lot of companies rolling out stuff like online promotions, Twitter stunts, things like that. So it's going to be a very, very rich environment.
Okay.
The challenge for next year is going to be if everybody's rolling out like Twitter stunts and Facebook promotions and games and stuff like that. How do you stand out
from the clutter?
Yeah. If everybody is gunning for that, what we started.
How do you
4 hours?
How do you get that one day where everybody talks about you?
Your brand, diba? Sana you can. So if only you could just clear out and say, "Oh, today's ours. Tomorrow it's yours." But that's not the case. Everyone's gonna be gunning for like the same Friday.
Okay.
Like that. So that's gonna be a challenge. And hopefully. Agencies are going to be ready for that. I think there's going to be more demand for digital marketing services than there will be agencies to provide it. If at least from a project perspective, maybe not in a media perspective, but from a project perspective, absolutely. So it's a great time to be there, man.
So guys like you will be in very short supply.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kinda. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to supply the demand.
Okay. So, there you have it, folks. Mr. Mike Palacios of Havoc Digital, one of the vanguards of digital communications here in the Philippines. Mike, thank you for guesting in the show.
It's a pleasure.
This has been Drinking Digital, episode 10 of Drinking Digital. See you guys again next week. This has been your host, Ricky Baizas, and we are broadcasting live from the Battle Axe Network studios. Check out our other podcasts at battleaxenetwork.com. Of course, we would like to thank DJ Mo Twister, Miguel, the man with the plan, Olfindo, for opening up his house to us this evening. Thank you very much to our listeners. Please watch out again next week as we broadcast another episode of Drinking Digital, the first and only weekly podcast that talks exclusively about digital communications here in the Philippines. Thank you.